What does it take to not only build one of the strongest business brands, but also personal brands, reinvent yourself not once, but multiple times, and do that with incredible success? This and much more is what we're going to discuss with today's guest, who I would sum up as a serial entrepreneur, a futuristic leader, and also one of the biggest and strongest pillars of brands, companies, and also people. Phil Bella is joining us today. Phil, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Petra.
Honestly, I'm excited about this conversation because you have been leading the way in so many ways, and you are a trusted authority. I don't want to even say in an industry or profession, because you have established yourself and have built a name for yourself in multiple industries and professions. I'm curious, how did you get to where you are now?
Yeah, look, I think it takes multiple steps. I mean, I'm 47. I've been in business since 26, but 9 years before that, I was working for somebody else. It takes, but I mean, if I had to summarize it, it's about having strong values. To me, it's about having strong personal values and having strong, so I separate lives into personal, professional, and family. And it's about having strong values across each, having strong values personally, professionally, and family, and really understanding. And in terms of professional, which is outward facing, and, my professional brand is different to my brand at home. I'm quite introverted at home, and I'm extroverted with friends and relatives, but I'm quite introverted around new company, and I like to be, I'd rather a quiet night at home than out partying. But as a brand professionally, I'm actually quite extroverted. That's part of that persona, but it's not because I try to be extroverted. It's that I have an opinion on something. My opinions are normally based on facts and experiences, and if they're not, I say so. But the underlying factor, to answer the question directly, is about values. Becoming a trusted authority, or being seen as a trusted authority in something, you've got to have the combination of values, but then you've got to have the experience. If you don't have the values set, then you don't stand for anything. And in order to stand for something and be able to execute and talk about it, and be a trusted authority, then you need to have the experience. You need to have lived it. So I can't sit here and talk about business if I haven't been in business. And this is my 20th year in business. So, I started business at 26, I'm now 47. So it's my 20th, 21st year in business. So I've got that experience of, a startup and building it from nothing to the biggest in the country to exiting. So I learned about startups, you learn about all sorts of stuff, exiting and all the rest of it, managing people, managing cultures. So you're actually in it. But that's the thing. So the short takeaway, the grab is, in order to follow anyone or to look at somebody as a trusted authority, for me, it's about the values set, and it's, do they have the experience to talk on what it is they're talking about.
Oh, I love it so much. And, also thank you for sharing that you are actually an introvert, because I hear often as an excuse, or I can't build my profile or my presence because I'm not an extroverted person. It's not easy for me to speak, but it's very much being intentional about how you want to show up. And also what you mentioned, knowing your values, because, you've reinvented yourself and your business models and your businesses a few times because of you. You've always taken the same values that represent you to the different industries. I'm curious, because you also said 20 years, so congratulations to that massive milestone. What drives you? What excites you to constantly push yourself?
Oh, look, for me, it's about tomorrow better than today. I benchmark, people, as a young fellow, I played professional tennis. As a junior, I played soccer, I played all sorts of sports, and sport and business are so related. And there's a lot of studies around that now, but they find that, that you look back, that people that are involved in sport normally perform really well in their career, in business, whatever it is. What drives me is I've got that competitiveness, but I don't compete with others. I've had my competitiveness is with me. Sometimes it can drive me crazy because you think, am I enough? Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? Which happens, and a lot of people go through that, including myself. It doesn't matter how much success somebody's had and how many times they've built a business or the rest of it, you still go through that. And that's a positive, because it keeps you on edge, and that edge, it keeps you sharp, to me. But it is that whole journey of tomorrow better than today. To sum it up, it's the competitive spirit I have within myself to be a better version tomorrow than today, and understanding that sometimes I'm going to take 2 steps backwards, but if I'm taking 2 steps backwards in order to go 4 steps forward, I'm going in the right direction. So don't let, people shouldn't be afraid of stepping backwards. People shouldn't be afraid of questioning themselves. It's going to happen. But to me, my driver is, am I going to be, and how can I be better tomorrow than what I am today?
So good. And, you've kind of future-proofed your life, your career, your business, because you've got such a strong personal brand with strong relationships underpinning it. I'm curious, when do you know, or when do you make the decision to move on to the next stage of your career and your business and your life? And when is it too early to just jump ship?
Yeah, look, that's great question, hard question, but I'll try and give listeners a template. It's different for different people. It's different for different people, and it's different for different industries. And the first thing to start with is personal, professional, family. What's happening in my life personally right now, what's happening in my life professionally, and what's happening from a family. And for me, I'll talk about personally, obviously my personal scenario. When it came to decide, do I sell my company or do I not sell my company? It was all about me personally. I wasn't fit, I wasn't healthy, I was overweight, and I was still quite young. I was in late 30s, early 40s, and my doctor's like, you've got to take care of this right now. You've got to control this. So I mapped it out personally. Okay, what's missing in my life right now? Am I successful? And no, I wasn't. Whilst I looked at business, I was very successful in business, 10 out of 10. Business was great, things were doing well, we had a great team, we were growing, we had great customers, we were making good money. That was a 10 out of 10. And then family, well, I was traveling 3 weeks a month. And 3 weeks a month, well, I was probably a 5 out of 10 when it came to family, because, they didn't give them the attention they needed, young kids. And that's my scenario. So, whilst the business scorecard would be 10 out of 10, the personal scorecard and the family scorecard were 5, if that. Out of 10. So to me, the template for listeners would be sit down and work out what your life looks like personally, professionally, and family, because everybody's life, call it a life scorecard, is going to be completely different, and there is no magic time, to sell a business or to buy a business or to start a business. There is no magic time. The magic time comes down, when is everything working in harmony for you? What does if you've got serious illness, well, the last thing you should be thinking about is starting a new business. If you've got sick loved ones, a sick wife, sick husband, sick partner, sick family member that you've got to look after, then it's going to be more difficult to start a business if you don't have the resources. So that is really a key, is to sit down and scenario map your life personally, professionally, family. And then the next part is apply the resources you have available. So, because we all have different resources, and resources is not just money. Resource is health, resource is time, resource is support, resource is money. So resources are multiple things. So you need to sit down and map out what resources you have. And then you funnel. I love the funnel. You put all into the funnel, and then at the end comes a decision. Do I start a business or do I sell it? And it answers. So you start with the question. You put those two things into the funnel, personal, professional, family, resources, and then out comes the answer. And that's the model that, hopefully helps listeners, because, it is different for different people, different scenarios. Everyone's gone through different things at different times of their lives. So there is no, one strategy will meet everybody. And I found that with me. For me, the perfect storm, had to lose weight. The business was successful, but it still had room to grow. So, it was attractive to people, because if it didn't have room to grow, well, it's less attractive for somebody to buy. And family wanted me around a lot more. So, it was the perfect time to sell a business. So, and then the perfect time to start a business. Well, again, I had my weight in order. I only work school hours, and business, I have the resources, which are 3 general managers that can run the business, so I can do what I need to do. So I've always applied that same model, and I hope it helps the listeners.
Excellent advice. And it also comes back to your personal values, because success is not just being successful in your career and your business. There are so many more aspects to life, and we often just focus on the wrong or the very obvious metrics. Do I earn 6, 7, 8 figures? Have I got this and this in place? But in the end, if that's not what you actually are driven by or motivated by, because it doesn't align with your values and freedom and family, and time off is more important, then you will never be happy. So I'm glad you shared that. And I'm really curious. As I said, you've built one of the strongest and biggest company brands, but you've done it with your personal name. And I don't know how many companies who could do that, selling a company with your personal branded name. How did you do this?
Yeah, look, great question. And it's 2 things. One, you've got to separate the 2 brands. And that was why Alan Bonsall wrote Entrepreneurial Intelligence. He said, right, we're going to write a book, we're going to separate the two brands, we're going to talk about Philip DeBella, the person brand, and DeBella Coffee, the company brand. So that was the catalyst, that was the start, to separate the two. And the other one was that I talk a lot about personal, professional, family. So I already set that template up that say, well, the brand professionally is not me brand personally, you know, and we separate that way. But the key to it is, and again, everybody's different, Petra, right? And I say this to people, you know, everybody's different. I don't get attached to possessions. I'm very fortunate. So I've been fortunate, you know, as a young kid, my parents earned $450 a week. I didn't come from rich. I came from a working class family, never had a new car. We never went on overseas holidays. My dad's still never been on a plane in 60 years back to Italy. They're just, you know, working class, $450 a week. But we had great moments. We had food on the table. We had great moments, people visiting. We went to the beach on the weekend, stuff like that. We had the things that mattered. And I had a beautiful upbringing, but it certainly wasn't around having money as a resource, right? But that taught me a lot. It instilled great values and instilled great things in me. And that's why I say it's different. The scenario for people are different. I don't get attached to possessions. So I've been fortunate enough and grateful to drive beautiful cars for many years, but I sell a car and people say, oh, did you take pictures? Well, no, I didn't. Because I don't get attached. Oh, you sold your house in New Zealand at one house of the year. It was gorgeous. Yeah, now it's time for somebody else to enjoy it. You know, it's my mindset. My mindset is that I'm happy to go back to driving, you know, a Holden, a Ford, because there's nothing wrong with a Holden or Ford. You know, I'm happy to have, you know, to rent a place or to live in a simple place. So if that's what life's got for you, that's what life's got for you. So, you know, not getting attached to possessions. And that's why I say that, because, you know, people say, oh, well, what's a miracle formula? You sold the company. And I said, well, it was two things. One, we separated Phil DeBella and DeBella Coffee. But two, it's a lot easier when you don't get attached to possessions. You make a decision, you stick by it. And that's me. That's the way. But not everybody's the same. So that would be an interesting question for me, but that's also an interesting question to somebody who's different, somebody who gets attached to things, because there's no right or wrong. Everybody's just different. So I can give advice. My advice would work based on people that are similar to me. If you're the type of person that doesn't get attached, then you make it, you map it out, you make your decision and you pick your timing, and your timing's around personal, professional, family, and then you go ahead. But if you are the type of person that gets attached to things, well, your strategy is going to be a little bit different.
That's such an interesting approach, because this is one of the questions that I get over and over, especially from senior executives who are thinking of starting their own consultancy, for example, or their coaching practice or their own business. And they're not sure if they should set it up in their personal name or in a business name. And as you said, there's no right or wrong. And you're also one of the best examples that you can set it up as your personal name company and then still sell it.
You can, and it depends what industry, right? But it depends what industry too. Like I was speaking to a group of real estate agents last week, and I said, you know, real estate agents got to be careful about calling the name, you know, after their surnames. There's a couple of predominant businesses that they're called after their surnames. Lawyers are the same thing. Now, people are going with more generic names, you know, looking down the track and saying, right, if I use a generic name, it makes it easier. But the model I use is this: whatever's easier today normally becomes harder tomorrow. And what's harder today becomes easier tomorrow. So it was easy to use my surname because it was my surname. It had a good meaning. It's got a good flow, but it became harder later to make sure we separated it. With the coffee commune, it's easier. It's harder today because you're building a brand, or who owns the coffee commune, what's behind the coffee commune, what does the coffee commune mean? But it becomes easier later because it's not attached to a person. So it's a model that I normally talk about in many things. It's normally what's easier today becomes harder tomorrow. What's harder today becomes easier tomorrow.
And speaking of the coffee commune, so I've had the pleasure to be a speaker, but also attend a few events. And I think those breakfasts are out of this world amazing. Like, you get such a beautiful feeling, and your entire team was so caring when I had the opportunity to speak. And then second I walked in, everyone greeted me, and it's such a warm feeling. And this is exactly what a brand is all about, the experience. How do you multiply that? How do you build the business around those people and this experience?
Yeah, and the simple thing is outside in. You've got to build everything from the outside in. So when, I say to my team, Petra's coming to speak for us. She's giving up her time. If you were Petra, how do you want to feel? Well, you want to rock up. You want to make sure there's a car park for you. You want to be greeted at the front door. You're a confident speaker and a talented speaker. Some people are not as confident, so they're a bit nervous. So make people feel welcome, make them feel loved. Get a coffee in front of them. If they don't drink coffee, send them back out the door and they can go home.
Good answer.
Get a coffee in front of them. Get them comfortable. Make them feel comfortable. Make sure the environment's right. Make sure the temperature's right. But the mindset is about outside in. Too many people in business look at everything from inside. Whether it's designing coffee that I want to drink, well, it's not about me, it's about the customer. Designing food I want to eat, well, it's not about me. The chef's got to design food that the customer wants to eat. Cafe, restaurant has to provide an event that the consumer wants to come to. And that's what we do. So the short answer is look at your business and say, right, what's my potential customer look like? And what do they want? How do I get them to engage with me? And it's two things. How do I solve a problem for them? And how does I make myself relevant? And if you can answer those questions in business, then you're going to build the business from the outside in. If you constantly say, well, how can I solve a problem for a potential client? And how can I make that myself, my business be relevant to that customer? Well, then you're well on the way to build the business from the outside in. And that's what gives you that edge over anybody else.
And I'm so fascinated how you scale it with your team, because in the end everyone's got their own personality. And I was listening to one of your podcast interviews where you also said, when you met Richard Branson, he said that you build strong people or teams and they build strong brands, and I feel you do exactly the same. Have you got an approach to getting the best out of people and enable them to build their brand?
100%. So two things is, number one, hire on attitude and teach skill. Now in our industry, you can do that. A lot of industries you can't, and I use that. One of my best friends is a brain surgeon. He can't hire someone because they've got a good attitude, but they're a shit surgeon because somebody's going to die, right? So we've got to put it in perspective. In our industry in hospitality, I can hire somebody that's got a great attitude. They might not have the skills of somebody else, but if they've got a great attitude, we can teach the skill. So if you're lucky enough to be in an industry where you can hire people with the right attitude and then teach the skill, then you're already one step ahead. The next thing is the whole concept. We do a whole brand workshop with them in their induction, and we make them understand what brand is. Brand is what people say when you're not in the room. Then we make them understand what do they want their personal brand to look like. So we get each staff member to focus on their personal brand. So when person A, person B, person C comes to work, what do you want people to say about you? Do you want them to say, you're a bastard, you're a bitch, you're moody, you're angry, you're rude? What do you want them to say? Or do you want them to say, you're kind, you're loving, you're so talented at what you do? Visualize and think about what you want people to say about you, and then go about doing it. And understand that when you come to work, you bring your personal brand to work, and you're creating your personal brand. And if you get your personal brand right, then you will get the company brand benefits. And that's something that I encourage people to do. A lot of people work on the company brand, but they don't work on the brand of the people within the company. It's like culture. People go, I'm going to tell you what the culture of the company is going to be. Well, they don't. The culture of the company is what the customer feels and thinks when they've engaged with your business. So I ask people, like you just said the culture of the commune a couple of minutes ago. They made me feel warm, friendly, valued, part of something, they're comfortable. That's our culture, right? Our culture is that because you told us that, not because I write it on a wall and I tell people our culture is we're friendly and in service and we're wonderful. And then the customer says, well, no, that's completely wrong. I felt ignored. I felt like no one cared. It was disorganized. Culture, brand, make people create the brand and the culture they want to be part of, and your company will prosper and your customer will feel that. And once your customer tells you that, you've achieved what you want to achieve.
Music to my ears, and such an innovative approach, because I'm talking to a lot of businesses and leaders, and they're quite worried that their teams build their personal brand. And I'm glad you said within your role. So it's not necessarily you have to be famous and you have to be across all social media channels, but it's about you taking responsibility over how you want to contribute every single day. And yes, you may get poached every now and then, but then at the same time, if your commitment to the role, to your growth, to the company is strong enough, because you have been part of building that culture, they won't leave anyway. What is your response to leaders and HR teams who say, well, I don't want my team to build their personal brand inside or outside, because then they could be poached or they could leave us?
What about if they stay? Simple question. That's it. What about if they stay and they destroy your brand? So, you'd rather be training people to be the best they can be. And if they leave, they leave. However, there is something else that, and I have a strategy on that underpins it, is you want people good enough to own their own business, but you got to give them a reason not to. Now, everyone's got a different reason. Everyone's got a different love language. It's not always about money. Some is about workplace flexibility. Some is about job security. Some is about, health benefits. Like when I started a business in New York, it wasn't about the pay. It was about, will you pay for my health benefits? Which for an Australian, it's really crazy to hear somebody say, the most important thing to me, you can pay me base wage, but are you going to pay for my health benefit? Because 90% of employers don't pay health benefits in America. They don't give sick days. So what's important to somebody in New York was different to what's important to somebody in Australia. So it's really understanding what the love language is. It's really understanding, but it comes down to the system. You want to give them a reason not to go. If they're good enough to own their own business, if they're good enough for you to keep them, you've got to give them a reason not to go. In order to get, and it's not always about money. People say, oh, they always want more money. No, they don't. Because you know what? Like my parents did, they learnt to have an amazing lifestyle on $450 a week, because it's all relative. But you can't have it all. So it's not money for everyone. Everyone's got a different love language. Everyone's got a different expectation and need. If they're single, it'll be different than if they're married. It will be different if they've got children. And so in short, what we don't do enough is we don't actually spend enough time communicating with our people. So one of the key advantages I've always had when it comes to employing good people is I spend a lot of time with my people. I spend a lot of time with my internal people, and I actually spend more time with my people than I do with my customers. Because if I spend good time and build good people, I get good customers. Right. So I work on my people. And that's something that I see that a lot of leaders don't do. They don't work on their people. And I also expect a lot. I'm sick of bullshit podcasts and posts and people writing documents talking about a great leader is, this is what you do to be a great leader. This is what great employers should do. Well, what should an employee do? What does an employee need to do? Where's the podcast? Where's the documents about being a good employee? And that's something that was drummed into me as a young kid from my dad. My dad was a gardener, at the Royal Brisbane Hospital. And he said, when it's cold, you go to work. You don't go under the blanket. When it's hot, you don't go to the beach. You go to work. These are the, when you work, you work. You don't talk. You don't stand around like a statue. You work. This is what was drummed into me as a kid. My dad was teaching me how to be a great employee. Yet this was somebody who never went past grade 3 at school. This is someone who never earned more than $450 a week, but he was teaching me great values. Now we've got educated people. Where's the documentation? And it's a challenge for people listening to this, because I've just done a flashcast for my segment on, and it'll get released soon, around what does it take to be a good employee? Because yes, you've got to be a good leader. Yes, employers have to be good employers. I'm an advocate for it. I've employed people for 20 years. If I want my people to be the best, so I put so much work into them, right? But I also expect them to put work into themselves. And I tell them that, right? And so the short answer is you've got this mutual respect. I'm going to do the best I can for you. I want you to do the best you can for the business, right? And when those two get together, then what you get is a great experience. The customer gets a great experience, and the customer builds emotional engagement. It builds goodwill. It builds stickiness.
Yes, absolutely. And also the reward, because in the end, if you are a driven person, you want to be challenged. You don't want to just flow and, ride the wave. And you are very open with your communication. So you attract the right people, and you also repel the wrong ones who rather stay around, who want to have coffee for 3 hours a day. And that's not the right people.
Totally. And that's fine. And that's okay. And I say to them, you don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I've had people that have been really talented that work for me that now don't work for me because they've got the wrong attitude. Now, not wrong because they're bad, wrong to work with me. Now, it's pretty simple. I'm the owner. You're a worker. Who's going? I can't go. Now, it doesn't mean that you're bad. You're good. You're good at I've had people that are fantastic at what they do that don't work with me anymore. Why? They didn't have the right attitude to work with me. Now, it doesn't mean that they were bad. They just didn't have the right attitude, and the owner can't leave the venue. So you go. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing when I sold my company to Retail Food Group. It's exactly the same thing. They employed me as a consultant. I worked there for 3 years. In the last year, the new managing director came in, and me and him didn't work well together. And I said to him, I have respect for you. You have respect for me. I know what I'm doing. You believe you know what you're doing. You're the boss. Time for me to leave. Simple.
Yep.
No hard feelings. Done. It's the same on role reversal, because some people might say it's easy when you're the boss. No, I've actually lived this on the other side. That's what I did in 2019 to the exec chairman and managing director of Retail Food Group. I sat down with him and I said, you have one direction. I have a different direction. I have my expertise. You have yours. You're in charge and not going anywhere. Therefore, I am. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Simple. You know, no hard feelings. I've done it, just like I've done it on the other side, where I've said to people that have worked for me, you're very good at what you do. We can't get along. You need to walk away. Simple. You know, and it happens, and that's okay. And people listening to this need to understand that doesn't matter whether you're the employee or the employer. You need the right team. You know, if you're building a jazz band, right, you don't want punk rockers. If you're building a rock band, you don't want people playing the flute. Right, like you've got to match the right people on the right seats of the bus, and that's okay. Because what's happening is everyone's getting soft. Oh, that person hurt my feelings, or that employee hurt my feelings, or that employer hurt my feelings. Let's just get on with it. Get on with it. The right people on the right seats of the bus for the right reasons. So the right people in the organization, and whether you're an employee, if I'm an employee, I've got to choose the right job in the right organization. Don't blame the job or blame the organization. Blame yourself. And same with an employer. Don't blame the employee. Have I chosen the right person for the right skills for the right seat of the bus? Simple. And if you haven't, because we all make mistakes, thank you and goodbye. And as an employee, the same thing. Thank you and goodbye. But why is there so much drama? Why is there all this bullshit and hoo-ha? Get on with it. There's going to be enough stuff in your life that you're going to need attention than to have to deal with bullshit.
So true. And you know, it's easy for you because you've done the hard and deep work. You've got a very high level of self-awareness and self-consciousness, how you want to show up, how where and how you can contribute your best work, and who is perfectly aligned with it and who isn't. And you also build your brand, very publicly. You share opinions about big topics that, ruffle some feathers. And again, there's another conversation a lot of leaders share with me all the time, that they are worried about getting backlash, getting negative feedback and criticism. How do you handle it? How do you draw the line between chipping into a topic that could ruffle the feathers, and which topics do you not contribute
look,
to?
If you say answer it in one line, it's stay true to your values, right? So there's a couple of things. So the couple of key words, values. I always stick to my values, right? I don't think that everyone wants to listen to me. That's why I don't go and put stuff on other people's channels. So you'll see me whenever I'm tackling a topic, it'll be on my LinkedIn or it'll be on my social media. I don't go and put my opinion on somebody else's thread unless they're asking for it. Right? So to me, it's my values. It's about sticking to the values. Number two is I'm authentic. I'm very authentic. I don't change my mind and left and right. And one of the reasons why the Prime Minister lost one of many reasons why the Prime Minister lost the election is that he kept changing his mind. You've got to stick to being authentic. You've got to be authentic in what you do, because people don't like people that are not authentic, right? The next one is intention. Right, it might ruffle feathers, but my intention is not to piss people off. My intention is to bring awareness to a situation. Like the other day, I put a post up about the teal voters, and I said, well, the teal voters are now all upset because and Albanese wants to put death tax, he wants to keep carbon, and all the teal voters are upset. And it's like, well, what you voted to get rid of Scott Morrison, you didn't vote for Anthony Albanese, but this is what your actions did. So now you have to be aware. Now, somebody turned around and said, oh, the government's only been there a couple of weeks. It's a bit unfair of you to have a go at them. Where am I having a go at the government? I'm not having a go at the government. I've only got one expectation of the new government: manage our money carefully and protect our country. Manage the taxpayers' money effectively and use it for good things, and protect the Australian people first. They're the two expectations I have of the new government, and it's the same expectation I have of any government. Manage the taxpayers' money well and build things that we need: health, infrastructure, security, all the things that the people contribute taxes for, and keep Australians safe and look after Australians before we worry about everybody else. They're the two things but nowhere in that post was it about the government. It was about the voters, because the voters wanted to vote Scott Morrison out, and what they got was a new Prime Minister. But the new Prime Minister only had 31% of the vote. Now, see, I talk facts. You can't get 30. How do you get 31% of the vote and say we're a democracy? We're not, because not even 1 in 3 people voted for the Prime Minister that we have. That's not a democracy, but that's okay. He's the Prime Minister. We work with them. But the point I'm making is you've got to stay true to your values. You've got to be authentic when you speak, and you've got to be very clear on your intention. And then you've got to have broad shoulders, because sometimes people are still going to call you a dickhead, right?
Exactly.
And they do. And that's okay. They're entitled. They actually do you a favor, because anyone that doesn't actually want to read or listen or look at things and make a comment, they're doing you a favor. It's called delete. right? Because when it's on your thread, you have the right to delete people anytime you want, right? It's your thread, it's no one else's. So that's the, there's a few tips in there, is that if you're going to be vocal and you're going to be opinionated, or you're going to want to stress, or push your agenda, make sure it's on your thread, because you own that conversation. Make sure it's your conversation, not somebody else's, right? Because you own that conversation. I mean, you teach people about this and what you do and stuff. It's about brand, it's about you and being the best you can be. And one of those keys is just be very careful what avenue you're using to communicate what you're communicating.
And I feel,
and have broad shoulders.
Exactly. But even if you go into a boardroom, there will be hopefully at least one person who doesn't agree with you, and that's healthy. You don't want to have all the yes sayers next to you, because you can also be wrong. You want to be challenged, but that requires you to really be clear about what you actually stand for, what is it worth to fight for, and which conversation do you don't want to get in, because it's not even worth your time and your energy. And you're so clear with that you attract the right people into your universe and also repel the wrong ones, employees, partners, business opportunities. It's all the same.
Yeah. And no, people are still going to have negatives, and that's okay. But it says a lot more about them than it does about you. If you do things properly, it says a lot about them. It's not going to say things about you. Like when I was vocal about COVID, it's now hit 250,000 views on LinkedIn. It was something like 1,000 shares. And I did a video where I said, we've spent so many years in this country bringing people together. My brother was 13 years older than me. He went to school, he got called a wog, blah, blah, blah. Now everyone loves Italians and Greeks. But when, 50 years ago, they were dirty wogs, greasy wogs. Now everyone loves them. Everyone wants to be Greek or Italian, right? They eat their food and all the rest of it. But we spent so many years bringing everybody together, reconciliation with the Aboriginals, acknowledging them, all this stuff. COVID comes along, and in a few months, the government divides everybody. No, you can't come in here unless you've got a vaccine. You can't turn up to work unless you've been vaccinated. And so I was vocal about it. I said, if we've spent so much time bringing everybody together, and now we're allowing government to tear people apart, and we're accepting it, and of course, 95% of people agree. Because when you start to plant that seed, and my whole motivation, my intention is bring awareness, have your views, and then people are like, oh, you're an anti-vaxxer. Well, stupid, I'm actually vaccinated. You're an idiot because I'm vaccinated. So there's your next argument gone. And I've had more vaccines than anybody because I've been to all the South America and Central America countries. So no, I'm not an anti-vaxxer because I've had more vaccines in my body than most people. What's the next thing? Oh, you're just trying to divide people. No, I'm not. I'm trying to bring them together, right? People are losing their jobs because they're not vaccinated. Are you for real? And then I use the example, but they're not keeping me safe. And that one I love. And they're not keeping me safe. I say, rightio, you and me are going out in the rain. You've got the umbrella. I've got no umbrella, but you're scared of me because you're going to get wet. But hang on, you've got the umbrella. Why are you scared of me? I don't have the umbrella. If I don't have an umbrella, I get wet. You don't get wet. Why are you scared of getting wet? You've got the umbrella. You got the vaccine. You're protected. You're okay. If somebody comes to your establishment, they're not vaccinated, that's their problem, not yours. I'm a very pragmatic, practical thinker. And COVID showed how stupid people are. It showed how people are easy to be led, easy to follow, easy to listen, all this stuff, So, you tie it all back to the question you asked before. You got to stay true to your values. You've got to be authentic, and you've got to understand intentions. And I think a lot of people changed their values. They weren't authentic, and they had no idea about intentions in the last 2 or 3 years. And we've got to get back to that. We've got to get people back to understanding what their values are, personally, professional, family, being authentic, having their own mind and feel free to speak up respectfully, and understand what people's intentions are. What does this person really mean? And if you're not sure, ask them. If you're not sure what somebody means, ask them. Don't just assume.
Yes, absolutely. And, this is what I love about your leadership, your thought leadership, how you show up in the world. You're very clear, very bold, and there's pragmatism to it. It's not feeling how I feel today and then tomorrow, and it's constantly shifting. It's very constant. People know exactly what to expect from you, and that also creates safety in a good, in a really good way. Yeah. Now I'm curious, what is next for you? What is happening in your world?
Yeah, look, the commune's my focus. It's only just over 1 year old, nearly 1.5 years old. We really want to set, because it takes a good 3 years to set solid foundations. It'll take 3 years in this one, and we're fortunate because I had foundations from before, because obviously Debella Coffee took 7-8 years to set foundations, but it'll take a good 3 years to set solid foundations. What in short for me, stay healthy, my number one priority. take all school holidays off and spend time with my family. They're 14 and 12 and they're growing quickly, right? So be there. And then 3, obviously help people accelerate their potential. The hospitality industry is changing. So our purpose is to make sure that we're getting people to understand the change, embrace the change, and know how to deal with the change. And that's what we're doing at the commune, is to lead the way on helping people to be efficient and profitable by understanding that change needs them to embrace it, but needs them to know how to tackle it. So that's the focus. They're my 3 focuses in that order: personal, stay fit and healthy; family time, school holidays; and then obviously purposeful work is all about helping someone accelerate their potential.
Excellent. And honestly, I can't wait to see where you take the coffee commune, because it has such a strong foundation already, and it's literally a baby in the business world and has taken over already so many other businesses. Phil, thank you so much for being here. Where can everyone stay in touch with you, learn more about what you're up to, and connect with you?
Yeah, thanks, Petra. Look, LinkedIn's great. LinkedIn, Facebook, obviously Facebook, you get limited people. So I'm constantly getting rid of people that I don't engage with or engage with me and put new ones on. But LinkedIn's great. Also Flashcast by PDB. A lot of people say, oh, where can I hear more about Phil? Or where can I tackle everything with the same problem, solve a problem, be relevant. I don't think anyone wants to listen to me more than 10 minutes. So they're all 10-minute flashcasts. They all tackle everyday subjects, personally, professionally, family. There's over 200 episodes now. I talk about all different stuff from, growth, exiting a business, startup, challenges, culture, marketing, finances, debt. So they're really good ways. So Flashcast is really good way. And I made sure that it's non-convoluted. There's no sponsorships. I pay for it personally to keep it. It's my gift back to the world, saying, if I can help somebody be better, then here's my gift to you, because I can't sit down and mentor everybody, but I can certainly build a program that helps people be better tomorrow than today. So the Flashcast by PDB on Apple Podcasts and iTunes is the best way.
And I've listened to that many, many times. So I'll definitely put all the links in the show notes, because that's well worth listening. And thanks so much for being so generous and sharing your wisdom, your experience, the lessons learned, and everything in between.
Thank you. And I'll release it first on your show, Petra. You've been so generous to have me. Game changer. So me and Alan Bonsall and I, Alan Bonsall wrote Entrepreneurial Intelligence. If you haven't got a copy, you can get it on iTunes or Apple for $5 or something. Entrepreneurial Intelligence by Alan Bonsall was written in 2010. We've now done a book together that will come out later this year. So they're hearing it first. It's called Game Changer. So it's a 17 rules of what can make you a game changer. It's obviously targeted at small and medium enterprise, but it's not just for business owners. It's also people aspiring to own a business or people working in a business. How can you be a game changer? Because the next phase of this world is all going to be about the key game changers on where they're going to take the world next. Just like if you reverse back 2 decades, you had your Microsoft, your Apples. These people were game changers. What's coming next? That's going to be released by November this year. So you've heard it first on your show, Petra.
Excellent. I'm excited. I put my name down on the wait list. I'm the first one to purchase. So that's official too.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks.